Yeah, I mean, let me start with the second part of that question first. I hope that the world will view us as, it's about time. And, I hope that people in the world are waiting for us, to the extent that people think about Puerto Rico at all, which unfortunately isn't all that much. But I hope they'll see us as finally having caught up to, what 190 other nations in the world caught up to, like,
Right.
having our own nation and having full freedom. Sometimes I speak with folks from other Latin American countries, and they're so confused about Puerto Rico's political status. And I get it, because if you're like Colombian or something and your country's been free since 1800 something, it's like doesn't compute that Puerto Rico or any place would still be a colony in 2025. So I hope that all peoples, and especially our Latin American brothers and sisters, will welcome us with open arms to that sort of brotherhood of nations. Um, and kind of just like we're saying with the relationship with the U.S., I think I hope that a free Puerto Rico will also be a friend and partner to nations across Latin America and around the world, really. Um, in terms of quality of life, um, it's hard to say. And I'm not going to be one of these people who sits here and says that independence automatically solves every problem, and an immediate positive impact. Like,
Right.
we're not going to undo 127 years of political and economic dependence, with the snap of a finger. And by the way, most serious proposals for independence take that into account and propose a long transition process that includes some continued federal funding from the US government. So, for example, in the Puerto Rico Status Act, which is the last bill on Puerto Rico status that passed at least one chamber in Congress, it passed the House in 2022. Again, never even made it to the Senate. Um, that bill envisioned a 20-year transition period in which, for the first 10 years, Puerto Rico would get the same level of federal funding that it was getting before independence. And then for the next 10 years after that, it would decrease by 10% each year, so you get to 20 years. So there's a recognition, and again, this isn't a pipe dream, this is actual legislative text that passed the House of
Right.
Representatives. There is a recognition that, you know, there has to be a transition period, that the US has to account for the time that it's going to take for Puerto Rico to set up its own institutions, to stabilize its economy, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the extent to which a transition like that happens, and how generous and how long it takes, is going to be a big part of determining what Puerto Rico's quality of life will be after independence. Like any other place in the world, Puerto Rico has to be governed well, right? If it's governed well, it'll thrive. If it's governed poorly, it'll suffer. That just can't be something that stops us. The fact that things might go poorly can't be something that stops us from pursuing independence, for the same reason that, like, when you turn 18 or 20 or whatever age and you move out of your parents' house, there's no guarantee that you're going to do well in life. You don't know what your quality of life is going to be, 1 or 2 years down the line. You don't know if you're going to struggle. In fact, you probably will struggle a little bit, but you still move out of your parents' house, right? Even if that's a more uncertain future than just like staying there forever, because you recognize that that's what you should do as an adult and as an independent person, is lead your own life, come what may, in terms of struggles, and you hope to make it and you work to make it. I think it's the same thing for Puerto Rico. Like, we can't know exactly what the future will hold, um, but we can't let that uncertainty, stop us and keep us paralyzed, because we know what the present holds, and the present is not good.